In 2025, a historic wave of wealth migration is reshaping global wealth. Millions of high net worth individuals are relocating. Here's where they're heading and who's losing them. Welcome to Entrepreneur Expat. I'm Justin, and on this channel we talk about global diversification, how to get second residencies and passports, and how to build the business and the life of your dreams in a different country. Make sure you like this video because it helps us out a lot with our goal of reaching 1 million expats and aspiring expats. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because you don't want to miss a single video. We're reporting news every single week, in some cases multiple times a week, so you definitely want to jump on and be part of our community. And if you're looking to move, whether it's to Mexico, like my wife and I are in beautiful Lake Chapala here, right behind us, whether it's somewhere in South America and other parts of Latin America, or even Europe or the Middle East, you're definitely going to want to schedule a consult with our team. We work with high net worth individuals all around the world, but especially from the US, Canada, and Europe, who are looking to diversify and build lives and potentially remote income streams from all around the world. Just go to entrepreneurexpat.com/consult. That's entrepreneurexpat.com/consult. So let's jump into what exactly is it that is happening right now. So there's this index called the Henley Private Wealth Migration Report 2025 from Forbes, and we were reviewing this the other day and noticing just a lot of the trends happening. And that Henley Private Wealth Report said that 142,000 millionaires are expected to relocate this year, with projections reaching as high as 165,000 in 2026. So we're going to talk about some of the countries that are winning wealth according to that report, and some of the countries that are losing wealth. So some of the major countries that are gaining wealth are the UAE at the top of the list. And the UAE has gained 9,800 millionaires with approximately $63 billion in total assets. The US actually is also still gaining a lot of millionaires, but more and more people are starting to leave every year. But it is worth noting that people do immigrate to the US, still a lot of millionaires. It's number 2 of the list with 7,500 millionaires and 43.7 billion in total wealth, and that's fueled by investor programs, some of which have been added in this new administration, and also lifestyle trends. And if you look at countries like China, for example, which are definitely starting to lose wealth, and there's a bunch of other ones which we'll go into, but people are going to the U.S. because, frankly, the U.S. still is a great country for business. Now, I'm not going to recommend that if you're in the U.S. or Canada that you stay there for a lot of reasons, and especially in the U.K. But certainly there's more opportunity for people from places like China or other countries that maybe you don't have the same level of opportunity to immigrate to the U.S. Now, next we have number 3, which is Italy and Switzerland, pretty much tied. Italy has about 3,600 millionaires that moved or that are moving in 2025. Switzerland with 3,000, and they're citing things like lifestyle appeal and favorable tax policies for moving there. And other hotspots include Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Portugal, Greece, Canada, and Australia. Now let's talk about the major losers. So at the top of the list, and this might not surprise some of you if you're already kind of in that expat space or you're following us or other YouTubers, but the UK now has a record 16,500 millionaires set to leave in 2025, which is outpacing losses from China at 7,800 and Russia as well. And some of the key factors are the non-dom regime that they have in terms of people that are not domiciled in the UK. I know non-dom sounds like something out of the BDSM world. In this case, it's not. Don't worry. But the way that the UK is treating some of those non-dom people who might not even be living there, but are still having to pay taxes to the UK, kind of similar like the US, but the US does give you some tax advantages as an expat. But yeah, the non-dom tax situation is a mess. There's also the closure of the Tier 1 investor visa. And then another thing that a lot of high net worth individuals are citing is rising inheritance taxes and rising capital gains taxes. One of the things that I've been noticing as well that I'll interject is the fact that it doesn't seem like the UK really wants to retain people with money. There's these really weird immigration policies, both in the UK and also all over the EU, where they're like, you know, we're going to let all these people from poor countries immigrate here, and we're going to start taxing millionaires and, in some cases, billionaires more and more to pay for all those people. I'm not going to get into any crazy conspiracy theories or anything like that right here, but there's a lot of this talk about, you know, why do they want all these people coming to tax, well, to put a tax on the system, right? To just come and take, and maybe they're working, maybe they're not. A lot of them are not, and they're tending to be a burden on the system when we're kind of shirking away all these millionaires and all these potential investors. So a lot of high net worth individuals leaving the UK are complaining about that. But yeah, the UK in terms of wealth is the biggest loser, and I just do not understand why these governments are wanting to get rid of people with wealth, because that's what their policies are doing. The UK in 2025 is going to see an estimated loss of $66 billion in investable assets, according to the Times. That's just crazy, guys. Like, what are you doing? And the US still is net positive in terms of millionaires coming there, but it's getting worse and worse. And the US is getting harder for people maybe that aren't millionaires, but that are like upper middle class, because it's getting more and more expensive. And we have clients even from the US that have got $1 million or a couple $1 million in the bank or in retirement accounts. They can't afford to really retire anywhere in the US because of all these policies and inflation and things like that. And they're finding that you can come to Mexico, and with $1 million, you can easily live for the last 30 years of your life, potentially, if you invest your money right. Obviously, this is not financial advice. Consult your financial advisor, etc. Some of the other EU countries that are losing a lot of people include France, Spain, and Germany, and they're experiencing net losses for the first time, according to Barron's and the Times and some other resources. And China has a projected loss of 7,800 high net worth individuals. Of course, if you're in China and there isn't the same kind of opportunity unless you're buddies with the government, and there's also obviously the control of people in a way that is not done in other countries, socialist policies, and so many other things. A lot of people from China are, in fact, moving to other countries, sometimes the US, which I think a lot of the Chinese people that are leaving are going to the US, and a lot of them are also going to places like the UAE. And there's just been so many drivers of this shift overall. So policy changes in terms of taxes have been a really big driver of this migration of millionaires. Obviously, we talked about some of that rising inheritance and capital gains tax in the UK, but also other places in the world. And then you look at things like political and economic stability. So here in Mexico, you have one of the largest growing middle classes. You have a lot of political stability, which, you know, people used to say, well, the Latin American region is not very stable and all these other things. And in some countries that's true. In Mexico, though, it's quite politically stable. The economy is just booming here. And you look at places like the UAE, which have zero income tax or very low income tax, depending on where your income is coming from. They've got strong infrastructure, and they also have safe regulatory environments. I don't have too much experience with the UAE in particular. We're definitely going to be researching that as one of the places maybe eventually we'll decide to settle down. Maybe there is somewhere in the Middle East that we'll go, or somewhere in Southeast Asia. We're not sure yet. But we know we know that here in Mexico, for example, if you want to start a taco stand or a barber shop or anything like that, you can get permits, even doing it the right way and going through the proper channels. You can get permits sometimes in as little as 3 to 6 weeks. In the US or the UK or a lot of other countries, it's taking months, if not years, if not, maybe they just say, well, we're full, we can't help you. Versus in Mexico, and we've heard that in the UAE as well, it's much easier to establish businesses. They're a lot more business friendly, and they're also a lot more small business friendly. So people that are entrepreneurs that maybe don't have a massive company that they're trying to move to another country, like, they're finding it easier in these places to be able to innovate. Even here in Mexico, we have a lot of friends that are consultants, whether they're working for locals here or local businesses, or for clients overseas in the US and other places. We have friends that have started barbershops, restaurants, hair salons, all sorts of things like that. And they've told us that they were able in a month to get all the permits done. Everything that needs to get set up is set up, and they're basically good to go. That just is totally unheard of in the US. So some of these implications of what's happening here are like really, everybody's talking about the UK as this almost cautionary tale in terms of wealth migration, because loss affects the sectors of finance, technology, the legal sectors. We've seen broader implications too, because when you have this brain drain of all these wealthy individuals, these intelligent individuals leaving these countries, it really just kind of causes a lot of challenges in society. You're basically scaring away all the people that want to work hard, that want to invest, that want to create jobs. And I think a lot of countries around the world are starting to see this as a case study in what not to do. So in summary, we've had over 142,000 millionaires relocating in 2025. The UK is one of the biggest losers, and one of the biggest winners is the UAE, gaining 9,800 millionaires in 2025. And of course, it's not just about tax rates. It's not just about paying less in tax. Of course, that's an important decision for you to make as a high net worth individual. You don't want to pay all of your money to the government, who may or may not actually be doing anything for you, right? You're more likely to be contributing than using different social services and things like that. So if you're someone with high net worth, you're thinking, well, yes, tax is important, but then the more important thing, I think, is really that economic stability, that political stability. We see riots and protests and a lot of terrorism and crazy things happening, especially in Western Europe, places like the UK, like France, like Germany, because of these backwards immigration policies that they have. And so the time is now to make that move. If you're really seriously considering, hey, this is not looking great for us, what do we need to do? The time is really now, because Mexico is starting to make things more and more expensive every single year. It's been going up by 10 to 15% in terms of the requirements now to get permanent residency in Mexico. This is definitely achievable for people that have high net worth, which is you need about 300,000 or so in the bank in savings, and then a little bit more for each additional dependent, like a spouse or children. But they're starting to increase these things every year. And every year they're going up, like I said, by 10 or 15%. So if you're like, you know what, I'll retire in Mexico, but I'm going to start the process in 10 years, who knows? Even if you've got $1 million in net assets now, maybe in 10 years, we actually looked at the projections, and based on the current trends, they're going to be requiring over $1.2 million just to immigrate to Mexico. And Mexico is one of the cheaper countries. So imagine Europe and all these other countries around the world that are starting to now get saturated with these expats moving there. If it's something you want to do and you're serious about it, do it now. And go to entrepreneurexpat.com/consult. Book a call with our team. We're going to take a look at your unique situation, your assets, who's going to be coming with you in terms of family, what your lifestyle needs and desires are. We're not only going to help you pick the best country to move to, but we have a team here in Mexico and in other countries around the world that can help you actually boots on the ground, figure out what to do with immigration. We'll get you the appointments for the consulates. We'll get the visa processed here. We'll help you in some cases even de-domicile your business from a high-tax state in the US, move it to a different state so that you can operate that remotely without having to pay certain levels of taxes. We have professional legal, immigration, and accounting partners all over the world that can help with that. So go to entrepreneurexpat.com/consult, book that call now. The time is absolutely now to make the move. Thanks for being the best part of Entrepreneur Expat, and we're going to see you again very, very soon. Bye for now.